It's a heart-stopping moment. Has it happened to you yet? If it hasn't, it will. Unless you're prepared. This video will show you how to correct a slide on an icy road, but more importantly, help you avoid one in the first place. This is Dan Robinson with icyroadsafety.com. We're going to talk about three main points in this video when it comes to dealing with icy road slides. The first one, be aware of the weather conditions in the wintertime. 2, slow down when icy roads are imminent or in progress. And 3, respond appropriately if your vehicle begins to slide. Before we get into correcting a slide, let's talk about how you can avoid one in the first place. Anytime the temperatures are near or below freezing, keep track of the precipitation in your area before you get on the road. There are many apps you can use on your phone to keep track of the weather. If precipitation is in the forecast and the temperatures are below freezing, you can encounter ice at any time. It doesn't take much snow or ice to make roads dangerous. Most fatal icy road crashes occur with very light snow and ice amounts on the roads. When precipitation amounts are light, most drivers tend to be going full speed and are caught off guard by sudden patches of ice. One of the most common places for surprise ice is on bridges and overpasses. A bridge is more exposed to air than the road surface, so it tends to cool much faster than the surrounding pavement. After only an hour, this bridge was completely covered in snow, while the adjacent roads were completely snow-free. When it comes to icy roads, the most important driving technique is very simple. Slow down. If you stay aware of the weather conditions and slow down when icing is expected or in progress, you'll avoid getting into a dangerous slide in the first place. That's always the better outcome. The statistics show that most serious and fatal icy road crashes happen at high speeds, generally above 45 miles an hour. The higher your speed, the more likely you are to lose control, and the more difficult a slide will be to correct successfully. Your speed should never be above 45 miles an hour on icy roads, even on a highway. Some types of road icing are more dangerous and may require even slower speeds. In some cases, it's just a bad idea to be on the road at all. As a general rule, if your car begins to fishtail or slide, it's a sign you're going too fast for the conditions. Before we talk about correcting a slide, let's talk about oversteer and understeer. Both of these conditions can happen on icy roads, but it's oversteer that is the most common cause of crashes at high speeds. Understeer happens when your front wheels lose grip in a turn, causing your car to keep going straight even though your wheels are turned to one side. Oversteer, on the other hand, happens when your rear wheels lose grip with the road. In an oversteer condition, the back end of the car will slide outward opposite the direction of your steering input. Oversteer slides can happen when rounding a curve, turning a corner, or even with a slight steering motion such as changing lanes on a highway. Most fishtailing is an oversteer condition. Slides can also be triggered by braking or accelerating. Both of these are actions that can cause one or more of the vehicle's wheels to lose their grip. Now that we've covered the basics of preventing a slide, let's talk about what to do if one happens. There are 3 points to remember about oversteer slide correction. Number 1, don't use your brakes. Number 2, turn into the slide. And 3, don't panic and don't overcorrect. The first point we're going to cover is don't use your brakes. This is one of the most common mistakes drivers make during a slide on an icy road. Braking can not only trigger a slide, it will make a slide worse. Here's a good example. Watch the brake lights on this car. The car loses complete control almost instantly once the driver hits the brakes. Braking, in this case, caused a total spin out before the driver even had a chance to correct the slide. For slide correction to work, your wheels need to be turning freely. The second point, turn your front wheels in the same direction that the rear of the vehicle is sliding. You have also heard about turning into the slide. These both mean the same thing. For example, if the back of your car slides to the right, turn the wheel to the right. As the car straightens out, straighten the steering wheel. It's helpful to keep your eyes focused on where you want the car to go, that is, on the road ahead. The amount you'll need to turn the wheel is proportional to how far and how fast the back of your car is sliding. A small slide will only require a slight steering motion. What often makes correcting slides so difficult is that once your car begins to respond to you turning the wheel, it will often snap back in the other direction. When you're in the process of correcting a slide in one direction, be prepared for the car to swing back in the opposite direction. This oscillation can happen several times, and you'll need to respond accordingly. Let's take a look at correcting a couple of real-world slides from the driver's view. The steering wheel position is superimposed. Finally, the last point. Don't panic and don't overcorrect. An oversteer slide gives the car angular momentum, which means it will want to keep rotating into a full spin. Overcorrecting will send the car rotating faster than the steering can counter, and the car will spin out. Let's take a look at some real-world examples of accidents and slides, some that were corrected successfully, some that weren't. So let's take a look at this video here. This is a bridge, an interstate bridge, that curves pretty sharply to the left here. This is in Charleston, West Virginia. I want you to notice the car's wheels and which direction the car rotates. So first of all, the car is rounding a curve here, and you can see the back end comes out to the right. Now the driver right here is responding correctly. You see his wheels are turned just a little bit back to the right in the direction that he's sliding. Now I want you to look at how the car responds to him turning the wheel to the right. See, the car comes back, and now it snaps back over to the left. And you can see, again, he's turning his wheel to the left to correct, which is the right move. But then watch what happens. The car slides back out to the right. At this stage, he's overcorrected. It was just a little bit too much, and it sent the back end sliding out to the right. Far to the right. Now once again, turning the wheel to the right, and watch what happens. So there he corrects. See how the car will go back in the opposite direction? So he's turning the wheel back to the left to counter that little slide to the left, but unfortunately in this case it's going to be a little too much. And again, this driver was only going about 55 miles an hour. But you can see how difficult it is. Even if you respond correctly, it's very easy to overcorrect at high speeds. What I'm about to show you here is a very rare event. This is somebody that successfully corrected a slide. So let's watch and see what happens. The guy's going around the curve here, which is curving to the left, which means in most cases an oversteer slide is going to make his car slide out to the right, which is exactly what happens. So let's watch. See right there, back of the car comes around to the right. The driver appropriately steers to the right to counter. And you can see how the car comes back out to the left to respond to that. And he manages to correct it. Now the other thing here, you can see one of the reasons this driver was able to pull this off is he ended up on a section of the road that was actually salted, and there wasn't as much ice right here where he was. So that kind of helped him out there, but you can see that it takes a little bit of luck in addition to the skill. Now this one is going to be an interesting one. This driver, again, going around a right-hand curve, which way do you expect the back end of the car to come out? It's going to be coming out to the left. So right there, back end comes out to the left. You can see the driver responding correctly. He's turning his wheels to the left to counter that slide. And then the back of the car comes back around to the right. He's countering again. Same thing. Now, this is an interesting situation because right ahead of this car is the end of the bridge. So he's on ice right now, but he's about to drive on pavement that's just wet. So his tires are going to grab suddenly and make him swing around to the other direction. This next clip is going to be in an identical time and place. Same situation as the previous vehicle. The driver enters the right-hand turn. The back of the car swings out to the left as it starts to slide. The driver steers just slightly to the left, just enough to get it back in line. The car rebounds a little bit to the right. The driver corrects and actually manages to pull this off. Let's watch it again. Here's yet another example of why you don't want to hit your brakes. I want you to pay attention to the brake lights on this pickup truck. Watch what happens as soon as the brake lights light up. This driver wasn't even in much of a slide until he hit his brakes. The main takeaway from this video is that correcting a slide can be done, but it becomes much more difficult at higher speeds. If you slow down to below 45 miles an hour when icy roads are imminent or in progress, you'll end up with the best possible outcome, avoiding a slide in the first place.